Hey everybody, this is Ryan McClanahan with historythroughcards.com. I hope you're all doing very well today. It's been a short while and I haven't really made too many videos just because it's been so busy for me personally and professionally that I really just haven't had a whole lot of time to do videos, and I'm really sorry about that, guys. Once my book is finished, I'll have more time to commit to doing videos. The other thing is I really hate doing editing. I think it's the worst thing in the damn world. I really do. And I really do enjoy watching other collectors' videos. And I do comment on a lot of other videos that people make. So I'm still out there. I just haven't been able to devote a lot of time to making videos of my own. Plus, I'm also trying to finish my book before the National. Hopefully that happens. Uh, Anybody writing a book will tell you it's a long and lengthy process. There's just no getting around it. I just can't do everything that I set out to do. But with this video, I wanted to crack open these two packs of 1982 tops, and this was actually the first year that I got into collecting, and quite by accident actually. So I was 5 years old when these packs were uh, first out there in the public, and that that's actually going to be not detrimental to this video, but my recollections are going to be that of a 5 year old, if that makes any sense. And obviously, I'm probably going to end up seeing or knowing a lot of the players in here because they had longer careers going past 1982. But at the same time, too, my dad actually just flipped me a couple of packs of these 82 tops when I was 5, just so he could get some sleep and some shut eye. And you know, me being 5 at the time, I was a whirlwind. I was a motor mouth, and well, I still kind of am, but I was just I was all over the place. And so he was like, "Here you go, kid. You know, leave me alone for a while." And so I opened up these packs, and I was instantly hooked on not only just baseball, but card collecting. And I'll show you why, and I'll tell you why as we go ahead. And also, I also wanted to get into the economics of uh, actually buying cards like this today. What is it, 40 some odd years ago? I don't know. My math skills are pretty lousy. So anyway, and I've discussed that in prior videos too. I'm kind of special, guys. You know. Uh, oh, anyway. So 1982, I saw E.T. in the theaters, and it wasn't my first movie that I saw. That actually happened to have been Alien in 1979, and I do remember that, and it scarred me for life. And especially with the alien popping out of the guy's chest, that was pretty horrific. And then I saw another movie in 1980 with Jack Nicholson, and that was The Shining. And so, like, yeah, okay, like, what's my dad doing taking a 3 year old to or a 2 year old to a movie like Aliens or The Shining? Like, most of the time, I think parents don't realize this about their children, is that your memories could be very vivid with especially with certain things as you're a child, and they may think, oh, he's not going to remember this, but I do remember these packs and how I felt back then. And you know, it's kind of funny too, is that uh, last year I opened up a couple of packs of like 86 Donruss and a few other packs, and that was the first time I did that since 1994. And I could still remember what it was like to open up a pack of cards and that specific smell that you get when you open up that pack. And I can't quite explain it. It's kind of like a new car smell. Obviously, like, these packs are like over 40 years old, so I don't think that's going to be the case here. And I've told you guys too, if you're buying wax packs today, again, this, as a side note, I don't know why they still refer to packs of cards as wax packs, because the last time I think that they introduced wax packs was 1991, something like that. And now is the same year, 91. I think the last year, in fact, that they got rid of gum, and I can actually hear the gum sliding inside here. So I'm not gonna sit here and tell you guys that you're gonna get an $180,000 Ricky Henderson card like Jeff Wilson did. I saw that video, and in fact, he's actually a very polarizing figure, and a lot of vintage guys just don't like him. It's a different story altogether, but you really have to be careful of who you listen to on YouTube or wherever it is. So when it comes to taking advice from others, it may be good advice, but it might not be the correct advice for you. And that box that Jeff Wilson bought from Kmart, it was a 1980 Topps, and he was looking specifically for one card, and it was the Ricky Henderson rookie. And so he got a lot of shit for that from Mike from Junk Wax Hero and Dan's Vintage Sports Cards, and a number of other people too. In fact, when I was watching that, he actually kind of said Louis Taint. So he didn't know who Louis Tiant was, and me from being from Boston, we all knew who Louis Tiant was, and Dwight Evans, because he said Dwight Evans was on the Reds. So he wasn't as familiar with the players as he purported to be. There was a lot of Hall of Famers there, in fact, that he kind of bypassed as well. And then I was watching a video from Mike Junk Wax Hero not long ago, where he discovered that Jeff Wilson had edited out a number of things with that video of him opening up a pack of a box of 1980 Topps. And I'm probably the last guy on YouTube to be kind of like trashing other people and bad mouthing them, just because if you guys have ever listened to my videos, I'm like and in real life I'm not like that. It's just something about this medium that I really hate, and it's aggravating. One of the reasons why I don't really like to do this kind of stuff, but at the end of the day, it's not about me. I'm trying to convey to you guys about the hobby, what it was like, the history of the hobby. And that's one thing that I really don't like about Jeff Wilson. And I hate to say this about somebody, but he's not, how should I say this in the most kindest words I can. He's trying to give his viewers a different history than what was written in a lot of ways, saying that there were breakers back in the 1980s, and there weren't any, and people were chasing cards. Well, they were to a certain extent, but these cards were not as valuable as they are now. And for anyone who wants to grab a few of these 1980s packs to open or rip or whatever or break, I would suggest, if you're going to do that, your reasons for doing so, it probably depends on your age. So I'm now like in my late 40s, which is amazing to me, because I didn't think that I would survive being this old. And one of my earliest recollections, around 1982, happened where I jumped out of a second-story window because I thought that I could fly after watching Superman. And I've actually written about this. My neighbor at the time he was right across the street. He was a cop, and they actually watched me do this. And I remember I was clinging to the windowsill, and he ran over, and he's like, "Jump!" And I looked down. I'm like, "Oh shit, I can't fly." But if you think that kids aren't impressionable, then I got news for you. You know, I almost died. If he hadn't been there, I would have not been here doing videos where I'm saying and all the time. So, you know, you can be influenced greatly by other people in the hobby, especially. But, you know, it's funny because I was never influenced to do any kind of drugs or smoke. I've actually never smoked a cigarette before, and I very rarely drink. But you can be influenced greatly by what other people say, and that's one thing that I really don't like about Jeff Wilson too, is because is influencing a lot of either naive people to get into this stuff and spending way beyond their means. And so you really have to be careful of who you listen to. Even me, in fact, I try to give you guys the best advice I can, but at the end of the day, it's just advice, and it might not be right for you. I'm also reading from a lot of newspaper sources as well on the topic that I'm talking about, and obviously with newspaper sources, you really need to kind of like step back and say, okay, is there something here that I'm missing that's very important or vital to the conversation, or you know what is actually going on. You always have to have second sources and even third sources to try to get a sense of accuracy, because the media, even going back to 1940s, 50s, 60s, right? They're not always the most accurate, and there always is a bias in media reporting. I don't care who you are. It's just, for me, being a writer for such a long time, I've noticed the quality of content in media has just plummeted over the last 50 years. Again, that's true too with this magazine here, which is Beckett. And this is the May 1989 Beckett. And I'm going to get into this here too, because this is the 82 tops that I want to specifically talk about today. Anyway, without further ado, guys, let's get into this. So it's been a long time, and I really wanted to tell you guys too, if you guys were going to open up a couple of packs of these. The reason why they Upper Deck actually switched to a foil pack was because there's a lot of dealers would reseal these packs. They would open them up, take the good cards out, put other bad cards or commons in, and then reseal them and put them back into the box. And I've actually witnessed this, and I think it's kind of quote unquote dangerous to pay a lot of money for these kind of packs. Obviously, $15 here. That's quite a bit of money. But I think the reason why is because Cal Ripken Jr.'s rookie is in here, and even if I don't get a Cal Ripken Jr. Rookie in one of these packs, which I highly doubt that that's actually going to be the case, I still have his rookie. In fact, I have all of his rookies. The one thing I couldn't find, and I really wanted to show you guys, was his tops traded. And I do have his regular tops right here. Well, I'm sorry, guys. I just don't. Yeah, this is okay. So, as you can see right here, it's a little blurry. I'm really sorry about that. But that's his rookie, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about this particular card, probably in. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about that card. Okay, so I'm a little nervous doing this actually. I guess there's no way to get around it. Official Topps baseball album. Do you guys remember that at all? The album? Because I I don't think I ever saw one. And then it says new 5 Tops baseball card collecting boxes for $1. That sounds pretty cool. The album sounds really neat. And I'm actually gonna do another video on something that I saw in one of these magazines about PVC. I guess the holders that they use, the pages. Yeah, holders. That's great. Okay, so let's get into this. Oh my God. All right, that wasn't awesome, but. And I'm doing this backwards. Oh, okay. So this is what 40 some odd years got you. Okay. So they're a little dusty here. Mark clear. And yeah, the other thing with these can get damaged too. Obviously, you can see there's some damage here with this mark clear. The chewing gum, unlike Flair, I think. I had a real difficult time with Flair when I opened up I think it was a 1981 pack, because the gum stuck to the cards. I actually gave those cards to a viewer, and so I should I eat this? Yeah, not the best, not the best. I don't recommend doing that, guys. That's I feel like I should wash my mouth out with soap after that. All right, I don't recommend that. So we'll get we'll get rid of this. All right, here we go. Try to hold this steady for you guys. All right. So one of the reasons why I really love this set, and I do have the entire set, as you can see, the mustache is awesome. It should be in the Mustache Hall of Fame. I'm sure it is. But I really like the design of the 1982 Tops, and it's the one thing that I gravitated towards when I was 5. And it was a design that I think can be dated back to at least the mid 1970s. It's certainly a racing themed design, but it's definitely in tune to 1970s and early 1980s. And the other thing too in 1982 is I did see E.T. in the theaters, and I thought that aliens were real. So again. Going back to that year, you do have a lot of impressionable youth in the hobby. But yeah, this is, I don't, well, I shouldn't say I don't remember Mark Clear. I remember a little bit. In 82, I watched Yaz. I did see Yaz in 82. And from all the stories that I heard prior from my dad and my grandmother, and then others, I saw Yaz and I'm like, this guy sucks. But again, it's like 5, 6, so I obviously don't remember what he was like back in 67 or 68. Do I think that Yaz is a first time Hall of Famer, a first ballot Hall of Famer? Not really, but again, there are collectors who are a lot older than me, fans that are a lot older than me, who do remember Yaz back in the day, and they would clearly disagree with what I just said. So I'll show you the back, and it looks like that. And again, don't hold the cards as I'm holding them now. Don't do as I do, or just be careful when you're holding your cards like this. But I do like the backs too, and quite nice. So we'll put that there. All right, next one is Brian Allard. Again, I don't remember this gentleman at all. And this was obviously it's a really neat card. I do like the Mariners logo. I think it was really neat then, and I like the design, the color of this as well. So really, really neat. Really neat. He's the son of Ray Boone, who played for the Cleveland Indians in the 1940s and 50s. And he had a fairly good career, I think. The in action. Again, this is a really neat design. I really like the way they did this back then. And I'll show you the backs of these, and they look like that. That's pretty cool, I think. And again, I only bought these because it is a memory for me. But for younger generations who weren't around in 1982, it might not be worth it. Enos Campbell. And that's really cool. And I like the Giants jersey here. I think that's a really neat card. And the thing is, you can have fun with this stuff. It doesn't necessarily have to be valuable. Your collection doesn't have to be valuable to have fun with it. And so, for me, when I'm collecting cards, it's really not about the money. Sure, are cards valuable? Yes, they are. I think it's easier to collect cards than it is to sell them, but that's like a different story. These cards I'm not going to sell. I'm probably actually going to give these cards to the kids in the neighborhood after I'm done with them. But this is a really neat card, and I'm sorry about the focus here. I guess the camera doesn't know what to focus on. Enos Campbell. Yeah, I don't remember him. But then again, I wouldn't have seen anybody on the Giants in 1982 because this, Massachusetts was or is a American League town, and it has been since 1954, since the Braves left in '53. But it looks like he's had a kind of a long career here. This is like his 10th year in the majors. So 1972. And I always like to just kind of study some of the players here as well. Brian Kingman. That's cool. That's a cool card. Really, really neat. All right. The next player we have here is Richie Hebner. And I do remember Richie Hebner. I was actually a pretty big fan of Detroit in 1984 when they went to the World Series. But Richie Hebner here, in 1981, he was very critical of Major League Baseball players' strike, and that hurt a lot of fans and a lot of card collectors as well. And 1980, Topps was broken up as a monopoly, and Donruss and Flair were allowed to enter in to the field by making sports cards. And Clarence Newcomer was the judge in that case, and he actually collected cards when he was a kid. But Richie Hebner, I think he said years later that he was hurt professionally by his comments on Major League Baseball at the time. But there are a lot of collectors and a lot of fans that really didn't appreciate what was going on in baseball. And essentially what happened in 1981 was that the season was split. And I believe, and now it's probably only my belief, and I could be biased here too, because I am a fan of Dwight Evans, but Dwight Evans had a very good chance, I think, of getting the American League MVP that year. But if the player strike didn't happen, he would have had even a greater chance of probably getting into the Hall of Fame. Now, I definitely think that Dwight Evans should be in the Hall of Fame, but again, that's just my belief, and probably the belief of others too. I don't know. One of the other drawbacks of the players' strike in 1981 was that it leached into football as well, and this is a 1982 Topps football, and I really love the 81 Topps football. I think that's a great design. This is actually, I think, the first year that a logo was used on a card in football, and this is Dwight Clark. It's actually autographed. Unfortunately, and I don't think this is Dwight Clark's rookie. Unfortunately, Dwight Clark passed away from Lou Gehrig's disease, which is actually a lot more common in football than it is baseball. Although ALS is noted for taking the life of Lou Gehrig, which is it's known for, but it's named after Lou Gehrig. But there was far more greater football players and people who served in combat in the military have a greater chance of developing Lou Gehrig's disease, and it looks like trauma is one of the underlying factors of Lou Gehrig's disease. And then you have another, you have like a biomarker in your DNA that may set it off as well. So it can be inherited. So, and my grandfather, he was a World War II vet. Flew. He was a bombardier on. Actually, didn't fly. Oh, he did, but he was a bombardier over France in World War II, and he ended up dying from Lou Gehrig's disease, which is one of the reasons why I always talk about Lou Gehrig's disease and Lou Gehrig and ALS and treatments and all that stuff. So I'm a real big supporter of trying to find a cure for that. Anyway, and I'll show you the back of these just in case you haven't seen any of these. But I only have 3 1982 Topps football, and the 1981 strike leached into football in 1982, and there was a strike in football as well. And I don't think it's all that well known. One of the first strikes, I think, and I could be wrong here because I'm not always right, but I want to say that the first strike in baseball happened in 1972. So this was kind of like a slap in the face to all the fans. And again, 1994 strike is one of the reasons why I went fully into vintage. So anyway, this is cool. Jim Slatton. I don't know who this gentleman is, but obviously you're looking at the style here of both the jersey and people really, kind of like a rough hairstyle back then, as you guys can see. But everybody kind of like looked like this back in the early to mid 1980s. I always say it's important to discover things on your own and do as much research as you humanly can, but also get a second opinion on a lot of things. It doesn't have to be baseball cards. It could be getting a car or getting a second opinion from another doctor. So you're not going to come across like a $180,000 card in a pack of cards from the 1980s. It's just not going to happen, despite what Jeff Wilson or anybody else tells you. A lot of the cards in these packs are going to be off-center as well, and I'm noticing that these aren't that bad. And if you really want these cards, you can get the whole set. I think fairly affordable, even if it has Cal Ripken Jr. He's not that expensive, his rookie. But anyway, Carney Lansford. I remember Carney Lansford. I thought he was pretty good. Let me see the back of this card. I gotta find out. What is this? Oh, I gotta check that out. Okay, I really want to check out the back of this card. Um, so it looks like 1975 Idaho Falls. He was with the Angels for a few years. I'll show you guys. Oh, there we go. So he was with the Angels for a couple of years. It looks like in the Red Sox in '81. But yeah, I definitely remember, and the artwork here is pretty neat as well. Carney had a 3-run homer as a designated hitter for the Bo Sox on 8/29/81. Really, really cool. That's a really neat card. That's really cool. All right. He's a third baseman. Hey, look at this. To collect all your stickers, ask your store for the new 1982 Top Sticker album. And now I think it may have been in the back of this right here. Is that what they're talking about? From Tops. That looks like it could be what they're talking about here. Yeah, it's for the sticker album. All right. So I don't remember these at all, and really, really interesting. I don't know anyone who collects these stickers. Then again, I don't know anyone who really collects these cards, but I'm sure there's somebody out there. There's a collector for everything. So, really neat. This is cool. Future stars. Byron Smith, Terry Francona. Oh, that's really cool. Terry Francona's rookie. He'll probably get in the Hall of Fame as a manager. I think that's a really cool card. That's really neat. What a great card. Wow. Yeah, Montreal was not the greatest ball club back then, but damn, that's a really cool card. Wow. Here, I don't want to ruin it for you guys here. Let me just show you the back of the card. Looks like that. Really, really cool. That's awesome. And then we have Cecil Cooper and Pete Yukovich. That's neat. Cecil Cooper was with the Red Sox. I think he just quit signing, I think last year. That's a really neat card. That's really cool. I love the design of this. Wow. Really, really cool. I do have the set. I haven't seen it in a number of years, but I think it's still, I think it's still in its box. But that's really cool. And here's the Brewers team checklist. Yeah, that's really cool. All right. I don't remember this guy at all. But again, a lot of it is for me it's the design and it's the photo. So not necessarily the player, right? And again, I only watched. Just started watching baseball probably about 1981, 82 around there. And by 1984, I was definitely into collecting full time. A little older, maybe a little wiser. I don't know. Tippy Martinez. That's really cool. Yeah, I do remember Tippy Martinez. And let me check out the back of this. Yeah, guys, don't do what I'm doing right here. Again, like this is just my memories, and everything else I just said. So it looks like 1974 with the Yankees and Orioles, and 31-17 record up until this time. But that's a really neat card. Dave Collins. Yeah, I like the colors in this. That's really cool. Yeah, I really like that. Dave Collins again. Some of these players I like to study and see how their careers turned out. Again, Toronto Blue Jays, Jesse Barfield. Yeah, I definitely remember that name. Boomer Wells. Interesting. Future stars. Show the back. Whoops. Yeah, the centering isn't the greatest on this card. Then again, the kids in my neighborhood aren't gonna really care too much. I don't think. You never know. I mean, yeah, that's very cool. I did see the last time I was at the Shriner show. When I was at the Shriner show, I did see a bunch of kids dumping cards into a trash barrel, and I was mortified, and so we would have never done that as kids. All right, let's open this one. And this opens up a little bit better. Again, I'm not gonna eat the gum. Yeah, that's going in the trash. It's not wine, guys. Doesn't age like wine. Gum doesn't. Steve Trout. And again, we have that same issue with the corner there. I don't know if you guys can see that corner, but Steve Trout is the son of Dizzy Trout, and Dizzy was a pretty decent pitcher for the Detroit Tigers back in the late 30s and 40s and 1950s, early 50s, I believe. Anyway, I would be mortified if I had to wear that Chicago White Sox jersey. Back in the day, they actually changed their design in 1982, late 1982, because so many players complained about the jersey and that they were embarrassed. And I really would be embarrassed wearing that. But I don't know if Steve Trout had a career like his father. It's kind of hard to have be as good as your father if he's a famous ball player. We've seen a lot of kids following their father's footsteps and not have the same success, just because it's a lot of pressure on one person. But then again, you have Ken Griffey Jr. and he was actually better than his father, and obviously he got in the Hall of Fame. So yeah. So I just want to check real quick. White Sox, 1979, actually 1978. Looks like his first year in the majors. So that's a neat card. And Steve Carlton. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, Lefty Carlton, obviously Hall of Famer, 300 game winner, and I believe he's a 3-time Cy Young Award winner as well. And he's actually going to be in the National signing autographs. And his cards are actually really affordable for who he is as a pitcher. And in 1983, during the World Series, he faced off against Jim Palmer, and in relief, I think Palmer came in relief. One of those guys did. It's been a long time. The first World Series that I actually really did focus in on was 1983 World Series, but I didn't see all of them. I did see all of the 1984, but this is a really neat card. I really like this, and I'm a big fan of Steve Carlton. I don't think he gets the respect that he used to. again, he's a very affordable 300 game winning pitcher. And I'll show you the back. Looks like that. Yeah, but having two 300 game winners. I think Jim Palmer's a 300 game winner. It's been a long time since I've actually looked at Palmer's stats, but again, you guys can tell me in the comment section below if I'm wrong. But and then a lot of athletics. Getting a lot of athletics here. But that jersey is just, that's awful. That really is bad. It's the form-fitting jerseys that they had back then, the pullovers. Not the greatest. Not the greatest. Especially if you're an overweight pitcher. And I don't remember this guy. He was a catcher. So I remember Rich Gedman as a catcher on the Red Sox. And I don't remember Carlton Fisk. I think Fisk was gone by 1980. The contract that Carlton Fisk got was too late for him to sign, so that he went to the White Sox. I'm not entirely sure or convinced that that's actually what happened, but anyway. All right. Bill Robinson. For some reason, I've heard this name before. It's a neat card. And it looks like from the back that he had a pretty good career. It looks like it. Obviously, 150 home runs and 608 RBI, strikeouts. So I've noticed in the 1980s that you had a lot of low strikeouts compared to today. Everybody's a free swinger. And, a guy like Trevor Story, for example, has like over 100 strikeouts every year since he was been in the majors. And that wouldn't have flown in the 1970s and 80s. You wouldn't even get up to the major leagues if you had that many strikeouts. A lot of the guys now, they have no plate discipline whatsoever, and it's just, yeah. The other thing too is that you don't have a lot of guys who are batting 300 lifetime anymore either. Blake McBride. That's a neat photo. That's really cool. Outfield. Yeah, and again, Topps did a really great job this year, I think. Lee Smith is also in this set as a rookie. I do have that card, and it's really affordable. I met Lee Smith years and years ago, and he looked like he could still pitch. He was like 50 years old when I saw him. Really nice guy. And this is Bill Gullickson, and I vaguely remember him. That's cool. I always like their jerseys. I always like the Expos jerseys. They're really neat. Really, really cool. I don't remember him at all. The Blue Jays, I vaguely remember. Again, that's another neat jersey. It's really funny too, because when you look at, like I say, a set like this from 1982, you're looking at the design that was very popular when the card was issued, and not only the design of the card, but the style of the jersey, and in this guy's case, like the hairdo and the mustaches, which were all the rage back then, the handlebar mustaches. You had a case with Oscar Gamble back in the 1970s, and he tried to make the case about his appearance with, I think he was with the Yankees. They're an organization that demanded that everybody had like a cookie cutter look to them, no facial hair whatsoever, and he I think he went to the commissioner's office and kind of like tried to demand that that he have a certain style that was also like the style of the 1970s. And Oscar Gamble had this huge hairdo, and you know, he was definitely a man of his time, but I'm not entirely sure how that went over very well. I know he was on the Indians, and like this giant afro is really kind of like made him stand out, I think. But you have a lot of guys back in the 1980s with giant afros too. UL Washington, I think, had one, and I was kind of a fan of his. And here we go with Ted Simmons. So he's in the Hall of Fame, and nothing to me really stood out about Ted Simmons. Now I vaguely remember this guy playing, so it could be that I just didn't see enough of Ted Simmons, but I do have his 1971 Topps, and that's a great looking card of his. I think it's very popular. And Burt Blyleven is also in that 71 Topps too, as a rookie. That's another fantastic card. You know, I would love to meet Burt Blyleven in person, but yeah, I'm not gonna go as far as say that Ted Simmons is the Harold Baines of catchers, and a lot of people have said, you know, Harold Baines only got in the Hall of Fame because he had connections in Cooperstown voting process, which he did. 3 of them, in fact, that swayed heavily on his induction. I'm not sure about Ted Simmons. A lot of people say that he was one of the best catchers of his era, although I did not see him play. I rarely remember him. So, anyway, another sticker. I'm not entirely thrilled with those stickers. Just say I won't be completing a set of 1982 Topps stickers anytime this century. Now we have Johnny Bench, and he was a year away from retiring at this point. 1983, I believe, was his last year, and he was, unfortunately, in 1989, he was he may have been shortchanged by Carl Yastrzemski, or as Jeff Wilson would say, Carl Yastrzemski. But Johnny Bench is clearly one of the greatest catchers of his generation. A lot of people say he's the number 1 greatest catcher of all time. That's a little debatable, I think. I would probably put Yogi Berra in there as the greatest, but I'm biased when it comes to Yogi. Probably Bill Dickey as well. Tony Pena. No, I'm just kidding about that. I like Tony Pena. I like him quite a bit, but I was just joking. Other really great catchers. I don't know. I would say Johnny Bench here is probably top 5, but you guys can actually get Johnny Bench's cards fairly affordably as well. His 1968 Topps is really great, I think. He has a 1968 Cons Wieners, which is also his rookie. That's a very, very expensive card. It's a really neat card, too. I think I've seen it like once or twice in person. And then the 69 Topps is, I think, probably better looking than the 68. And I really like the 69 Topps. But this is really cool. And yeah, really, really neat. I'll probably do a video on Johnny Bench at some point in the near future if I can, because he has a really, really interesting story. Kansas City Royals. George Brett. That's awesome. I'm a huge fan of George Brett. I always was. And his rookie, he's got two rookies. So the 1975 SSPC is his rookie, and the 1975 Topps. And his 75 Topps is notorious for being off center. I have both of those cards, in fact, and the 75 Topps George Brett that I have is off center, and it really kind of bothers me. If you're gonna pick up that card, for me, when it comes to 75 Topps, if they're off center, they look like garbage, and I hate to say that because they are a really neat card, but that's a card that I'd probably would upgrade to a well-centered card, 50-50 with sharp corners. I'm probably asking for a lot though with that, and it's probably a very expensive card. George Brett, I do remember the Pine Tar incident in 1985, and he was just such a great player to watch. I really enjoyed watching George Brett play. And he had a brother named Ken Brett who was on the Red Sox. But this is really cool. Really cool. And again, the Royals, I'll probably do a video on the Royals. They have a very interesting and sordid history, especially when it comes to the Pittsburgh drug trials. It kind of turns out that they are like at the epicenter of that. So I'll talk more about that. But yeah, this is cool. Yeah, Ken Brett and George Brett on the same team. I didn't know that. And who else? Hal McRae. Definitely know that name. Jamie Quirk. Dan Quisenberry. I would love to get a Dan Quisenberry card in this pack, but I don't think it's going to happen. I do have a Dan Quisenberry autographed card from 1985 Flair, which I really enjoy, and I do think that Dan Quisenberry should be in the Hall of Fame. A lot of these future stars here I'm getting. Jay Howell, I actually vaguely remember him. But that's pretty cool. Yep, that's really neat. Alan Ashby and the Astros, and this is when the Astros were in the American League. And they started out as the Houston Colt 45s. And they have a really interesting history, which I'll probably cover at some point. And sorry guys. Looks like he was on the Indians in 72 through 76, Blue Jays and Astros. Yeah. Yeah. I kind of liked the Astros jerseys back then. John Henry Johnson. How many ball players were named John Henry Johnson? The Rangers. So Ted Williams was a manager of the Rangers back in the 70s. But interesting. That's pretty cool. That's really, yeah. Let's see. And Bob Welch. I'll talk about Bob Welch in another video. I do have an autograph of him, and really kind of an interesting guy. I think he was actually a pretty solid pitcher. But his record here doesn't really look like it. 35-24. But I'll talk about him in another video. I don't want to ruin it right now. But really neat. And the last card, Willie Randolph. Definitely know this name. A lot of inactions in these packs. A lot of future stars. And I knew I wasn't going to get a Cal Ripken Jr. rookie, and that's fine by me. But there was something else I wanted to kind of glaze over here with you guys. And that is the economics of these buying these packs. So the Cal Ripken Jr. card is really interesting here. I really like this card, and it's a lot more affordable, I think, than his Topps Traded, which is just a really great card. And unfortunately, I couldn't find my copy. It's somewhere in a box, and oh god, I'll do a separate video on that card specifically. But I really like this card, and it is affordable. So this is a set of 792 cards, and the most valuable card in this set isn't even the Cal Ripken Jr. in 1989. It's this guy, Pascual Perez Error, NPO. What is that? Kind of blanking, but it's $20 to $28 and going down. I've never heard of this guy. So what's really interesting here is in May of 1989, this particular card is going for $11.50, which is the 2025 equivalent of $28.52. And by July of 1996, this card jumped to $75, which was the 2025 equivalent of $153.66. So the 1982 Topps Traded Cal Ripken Jr., which I don't have here in front of me, it's number 98T for traded, and again, I don't know why he's in the Topps Traded set here. They have XRCs here too, which is kind of interesting, and I'm not entirely sure what the XRC is. I kind of forget, but anyway, this particular card is going for let's see, $9 in May of '89, and in July of 1996, it's going between $200 and $325, which is the equivalent of $409.77 to $665.88. So the 1993 Beckett here is telling you to beware of counterfeits of this particular card. Now, I wasn't aware that this card was in danger of being counterfeited. I always thought that it was the Topps Traded that had the counterfeiting issue. The counterfeiting issue was a huge problem back in the 1980s and the 1990s, and it's one of the reasons why you have Upper Deck come out with foil packs and holograms as well. And I wanted to introduce you guys to this particular magazine right here. This is a baseball cards magazine, and this is the inaugural issue from spring of 1981. And what's really interesting about this particular magazine here is this right here. And this is the baseball card magazine photo grading guide, and this is actually the first time that I'm aware of that you had something like this. It's kind of simple, to tell you the truth, but you didn't really have anything like this that Vigarashi is a really cool card. If you guys can see that right there, really really neat card. Um, I actually I actually do have that card autographed, and this is fantastic. Um, but this is one of the ways that the hobby really started to become not just mainstream, but um, more modernized. It was through something like this, and this guide and this book magazine is actually really really cool. And Bob Lemke was the editor of this, and he's really really well known. Unfortunately, he passed away in 2012. But this is the first time that I've actually seen something like this. This early, in fact, I wasn't aware that uh, this magazine was the first to have something like that, because I always thought that it came from Beckett magazine here. And if I open this up, this is from November of 1993. You have something really interesting. You have a centering guide right here, and you also have what the grading is of your cards, how to grade these cards, and how to center your cards as well. And not every Beckett magazine had this specific page, the condition guide, as you can see here. But Baseball Cards magazine was the first. I think that Beckett just did it better. And I'm not entirely sure what the circulation number was for Baseball Cards magazine. I don't even know what it was for Beckett, in fact. But this was really important, and obviously, like before the grading companies got into the game in, say, like 1991, and a lot of collectors like me would have had something like this to fall back on, and we had to study this stuff, and I studied this stuff like I was taking a test before every show that I went to and shop that I went to. Me and my cousin would always have a Beckett magazine on hand, usually rolled up in a pocket, and we tried to have it out of the view of the dealer, and then we'd look over the cards, and then we'd kind of like step away and huddle in a corner or something like that, and whip out the magazine and just kind of study like what these cards are actually going for. And kind of like just having a game plan and going back to the dealer and trying to making a deal. Now, my cousin was probably one of the greatest deal makers that I've ever met in my life, especially when it came to cards or video games or something else. And I don't know how he managed to get some of the stuff that he did when we were kids. He'd always have a way to get what he wanted, and it always really impressed me, and it still does, because he's got a way about trying to acquire things that he wants, and or making deals with people. And that's one thing about the hobby, is that it teaches you how to negotiate and how to make deals with people. I always kind of suggest that when you go to shows, study the cards, and each and every single individual card and each and every individual set has its pros and cons and its quirks about it. And it could be like where one card specifically is off center, or it has like a certain dot or some kind of mark on it in one specific area. So these are only things that you're gonna notice if the more cards you see, and the more shows that you go to. And the other thing too is building a rapport with the dealers. I think is very important. They will generally be able to give you the deals that you're looking for or the cards, but it's just that you have to go and build a rapport with them, and a lot of times it depends on reputation as well. Do you have a good reputation? Does the dealer have a good reputation? Building a reputation takes a long time, and it can be destroyed by something that you do, where if you're trying to take advantage of somebody else, or your intentions are other than what you present them to be, people can often notice these things, and sooner or later, you won't be dealing with anybody. And unfortunately, and I hate to come back to Jeff Wilson here, because he is somebody who is highly influential. A lot of people say that he is good to do business with, but again, like, you have to be careful about what he says. He is strictly a businessman and not necessarily a good one. You start to notice who the good dealers are and who the bad dealers are, the bad actors, the good actors in the hobby. And it's one of the reasons why I love to go to shows and just see these cards and take notes and take photographs of them and study the cards that you want. I think it's very important. And then again, building relationships with either YouTubers or card collectors, they all will eventually, I think, help you in your card collecting journey. I was a young collector at one point too, and I didn't have all the answers, and I still don't have all the answers. But I quickly surrounded myself with a group of older collectors, guys who collected cards in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s, and even the 1980s. And they really kind of like took me under their wing and showed me the ropes of the hobby. And I think everybody needs to have somebody who is willing to kind of like show younger collectors and collectors who may not have actually been in the hobby continuously, but started out in the hobby, got out of it, and then came back. Because you're essentially, when you're doing that, starting a family and having kids and a job and all that, like, I understand that's normal stuff. But a lot of collectors that come back into the hobby because their kids are growing up, and they need something to do with their kids as well. Like my dad started collecting in the 1950s, and he was out of the hobby or card collecting by maybe 1961 or 62. So at least by the early 60s, he wasn't collecting cards. And then he got back into the hobby when I was when I was 5 years old, and then at least by 1984, 85, 86, 87, he was helping me complete these sets. And set building was really fun between me and my dad. It was a good bonding experience, and we talked about the ball players. And one thing he said to me, particularly with Wade Boggs, because Wade Boggs at the time in the 1980s, he had the Margot Adams affair, and he said, these guys aren't people who you should be looking up to. And that's true. I mean, I looked up to Johnny Pesky and Bobby Dorn and Dom DiMaggio, especially when I became a teenager and I started to get to know those guys and other older ball players. But they were different. A lot of those older ball players that I knew and hung out with, Bob Feller and Duke Snyder, those guys, they're legendary, but they're also a part of the community, because they were when they were alive. And they had regular jobs in the off season. They were a part of the community, and they fought in World War II, and they're a lot different than, say, guys like this. Now, obviously, Cal Ripken Jr., and I'll talk more about him. I was at his last game at Fenway Park, and that was a really, really neat experience. Getting back to all this stuff, the early 1980s is really when we start to see spikes in prices. In fact, uh, Baseball Cards magazine here, uh, it kind of like shows you this stuff, and $17,500 value for a Honus Wagner, and back in 1981, people's main concern was that cards were getting more and more expensive, and you can kind of like, uh, well, you can kind of blame that on, I think, two people, specifically James Beckett. Uh, and I'm not saying that in a negative way or a mean way. That's not what I'm saying. That you can blame him for that, but you do see, and you guys can see here, the up and down arrows, and I think unintentionally what he did was to turn Beckett magazine into something more like Wall Street for the hobby. And these cards have nothing to do with Wall Street at all. Um, are your cards worth something? Yes. Is this card worth something? Yes, it is. But for a certain generation, like Generation X, it's going to be worth a little bit more. We saw Cal Ripken Jr. play. I don't know about these two gentlemen. I'd love to try to find out more about them. Bob Bonner, or Bob Bonner, more like it. Yeah, he. I don't remember him at all. I don't remember this gentleman here either. But Cal Ripken Jr. I definitely remember. I saw him quite a bit at Fenway Park, and again I saw him in his last game at Fenway in 2001, and he is he's a superstar. He's got a ton of cards out there, and he has other rookie cards as well. The 1982 Topps Traded is one of my favorite cards of all time, and it was really expensive way back when I was a kid collecting in the 1980s. Everybody wanted that card, and nobody wanted to trade it, so I never had an opportunity to grab that card. In fact, I did buy the Topps Traded back in 2022 when I was at the National, and I got off my buddy for a really affordable price, and I love that card. I'll talk more about that specific card in a future video, but for the most part, this particular card, and I think a lot of these cards, they were valuable because these guys were still playing, and that value may have decreased because you have other generations coming into the hobby who have never seen Cal Ripken Jr., and a lot of generations probably weren't even born when Cal Ripken Jr. retired. We're going on like 25 years now, and at least 43, 40, yeah, something like that, when he came up to the majors, and I was 5 years old. So I have vague memories of 1982 and 1983 and 84. I still remember those years, but it's the memories of a child. So not the memories of a teenager or an adult who would have completely different memories of those years. But I do remember 1982 being kind of a difficult year for my dad because there was a recession going on in 1982 and to 1983, and I don't have my paper here, but there was a recession going on then, and the minimum wage, believe it or not, was, I believe, $3.35 in '82, and it stated too when I was looking it up that I don't have it. That kind of bothers me. No. So the minimum wage, I think, went up to $4.25 in 1996, when I would have graduated high school, and again, you have to kind of like put that stuff into its proper relation when you're looking at the price guide here, and saying like, This 1961 Alkaline is $42. Well, what was $42 really in 1989 or 1993 here, and it puts it in its proper perspective. So the problem again with Jeff Wilson's foggy or hazy memory of the 1980s, and he's not as old as I am, but he still says that he saw a lot of these ball players, and he also made the claim that a lot of breaking happened, and that his version of events is not accurate, and so like accuracy does matter. So again, I would be very careful about the things that people tell you, and do your own homework and investigation. And the thing is, like, I think what really bothers me about Jeff Wilson, there's a lot of things actually. I tried to give him the benefit of the doubt, and I always try to give people the benefit of the doubt because they're not always right, but they also don't try to deceive other people. And it looks like Jeff Wilson's trying to deceive generations of collectors who weren't around back in the 1970s, 80s, or even 90s, or even early 2000s, into believing what he says is accurate. And the thing is that we have written proof of what happened back then. We have written proof of what happened in the hobby back going to like 1927 of all things, and especially 1935 and 1942 and 1946 and 1960 and in the 1970s and 80s. The hobby was being covered more and more and more in the regular mainstream press and in the hobby publications, which Jeff can say anything he wants, but the truth doesn't lie. People lie. Okay, so numbers don't lie. People lie about the numbers, and in a lot of cases here, because we have so many hobby publications going back to the 1930s with the Card Collectors Bulletin and all this other stuff, we know what was going on back then for the most part. Whereas you can't really have an alternate history or your alternate facts. They don't. They're really not recognized with this stuff. I'm not entirely sure, and I don't think that you're actually going to get your monies back on any pack that you open. You may, but is that really the reason why you're opening up packs? For me, I'm opening up packs from the 1980s because it's my childhood, and because there are certain things that I remember about that time. So I think for a lot of collectors and dealers, and I think it's universal throughout every generation, the reason why they seemingly revert back to their childhood is because they have specific memories, and they want to kind of relive those memories with the items that they had when they were kids. And for Jefferson Burdick, it was the T206. For me, it's cards from the 1980s. For my dad, it would have been like cards from the 1950s. And each and every generation has their specific memories of ball players or cards or moments that they specifically remember as kids. And the 1980s, for me, I remember the music very well. MTV, I watched a ton of MTV way back in the 1980s. The first music video I watched was the Thompson Twins' Hold Me Now. I've been a fan of the Thompson Twins ever since. And, there was just so many things about the 1980s that I really, really like. And I definitely have nostalgia. I just watched Ferris Bueller's Day Off for the first time in forever. And actually, Ferris Bueller's, his sweater is going up for auction too, and I want to see what that goes for. But again, that's my childhood. And shame on Disney for trying to ruin that. It's a different story altogether. But um, also, like now, the Goonies, they're doing a sequel to the Goonies after 40 years. I I'm not entirely I'm not digging that too well. Um, it's everything for money now, and I get a little pissy about this kind of stuff, because again, you could probably make a remake very tastefully, but I think also you're kind of destroying what made the original uh, really great in the beginning. I mean, you're dealing with people who probably love the music or the movies or the cards, um, and they want to try to improve it upon it in their own image, and it usually falls flat. And you see that with the hobby as well. So I think in the hobby now, you can learn a lot by studying the history of it and seeing, basically, like what worked and what didn't in the past. So they say there was a huge boom in the 1980s in the hobby, and that boom actually started in the 1970s, not in the 1980s, but for some reason, a lot of dealers and collectors tend to forget about the 1970s, and they focus more in on the 80s and the boom. And actually, there could be some reality to that because of magazines like this pointing out that Alan Mr. Mint Rosen was responsible for uh, the the high values of Mickey Mantle cards, and that's the other thing I wanted to kind of get to was a lot of the values came directly because of Beckett here and the price guide. Obviously, if you can have a price guide, uh, cards or whatever, uh, they're gonna go up because people see, oh, my cards are worth something here. I can go make money off sports cards, and that was kind of a new concept back in the 1970s. And all of a sudden, you saw mainstream um, reporters uh, with their articles saying that you can make XYZ amount of money with your cards, and then all of a sudden, everybody and their grandmother went to the card shop to try to sell their cards or the show or whatever, and a lot of times they got a rude awakening as to what the value was in the price guide and what the value was or what the dealer was willing to pay, and it was two completely different things. And getting back to Cal Ripken Jr. here, he does have a number of rookie cards in 1982. This is the 81, so he's not going to be in that set. But the 82 is almost exactly the same. And he's got a really neat rookie in there too. So he's in all three sets in 1982. But anyway, guys, I'm going to leave it there for right now. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about this or anything I've talked about here. And I will talk to you in another video at some point. Thank you very much, and I greatly appreciate it. Bye.